Hello everyone, it's me and Albie here today. I want to practice a technique I call the orientation game. So the orientation game is something that I'm using to get and keep my dog's attention. We'll start to add a distraction to it later on so you can start to see how it will apply to specific moments, right? So if, for example, a dog were to walk by behind us, or if somebody were to kind of appear out of nowhere, right? Which is happening a lot these days, right? But that's okay. I want my dog to be able to work through that. So for right now, all I'm doing is working with as few distractions as possible and working on getting and keeping my dog's focus on me. So this is not about eye contact. It's very similar to what we call the name game, where I'm looking for my dog's eye contact and focus. But for right now, all I'm looking for is for them to orient towards me, and that means to turn to face me, to acknowledge me in some way, shape, or form. You know, it could be their head moving back in my general direction, it could be their ear flicking if we make a noise. I'm taking anything that I can get right now, especially at the beginning of the behavior, and then I'm going to build on that as I go forth. So I'm going to wait for her to show any type of attention, which of course she was doing beautifully before, but the fact that I ignored her, she moved off. Yes, good girl. She moved towards me, so I mark with my positive behavior marker. I take my treat, toss it off to the side, wait for her to turn back, and I'm giving her, yes, as much time as she needs. I'm letting her process the environment. Yes, good girl. She sat. She does not have to sit. That is absolutely not a requirement for this exercise. And I'm letting her see all of the distractions and, quote, get distracted, but then teaching her that after she gets distracted, she can come back to me, and I'm going to have something better than what's on the ground, or better than, you know, that other dog passing by. So this way what she starts to realize is it's not worth it to look at all those other things. Yes. And toss. So I'm tossing the treats across my body. Yes. So I start to develop this pattern of I turn away, I look back at mom. Yes, good job. And you can see she's doing a beautiful job of that already. Toss the treat. She eats it, turns back. Yes. Toss the treat, she eats the treat, turns back, yes. And so as she starts to get successful, I can start to add some movement to it in order to maintain focus. So she eats the treat, yes. She moves with me, she gets the treat. She eats the treat, she moves with me. Yes, very nice. And she seeks me out, she gets the reward. Yes, very nice. Good girl. She eats the treat. Yes, very good. So it doesn't have to be a lot. All I'm really requiring from her is to give me any type of attention, any type of acknowledgement. Yes. And when she's eating the treats, if she wants to check the ground for something else, that's okay. That's really our main difference between this and our name response. You know, the name response is great, but I also want to teach my dog to do these things without me having to tell them. Yes, good girl. So you can see I haven't really said a word to her since I brought her out, but she's still incredibly focused. And you might say, oh, that's because I have treats in my pocket, but in reality, it's because we've done a lot of work together, and, you know, because we've practiced a lot of this, it's not just because I have treats. It's because I have treats and all of these other things. And, you know, again, this is something that we can do with our dogs, take them out for a few minutes, work them just on this, work on just on focus, and then put them away. So this way they had a really good session, we worked them outside, but we didn't fry their brains, because the longer I keep them out, the harder it's going to be for my dogs to maintain that focus and to maintain that attention. And that is our orientation game. Again, I'm just waiting for the dog to orient towards me, tossing the treat off to one side or the next, waiting for them to orient back, tossing the treat across my body again, yes. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a noise over there, and she looked and then immediately looked back at me. That's what I want to start to develop. She is allowed to get distracted. She's allowed to see what's in her environment, but then she ends up coming back, yes. And she gets a cookie for doing so. And eventually it's, you know, she looks back at me and then we continue our walk or we do something else. But for right now, I want to make sure I'm establishing that behavior in her, and she's learning that reinforcement history of looking back at me is a good, positive, fun thing. All right, so thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys next time.